Welcome to QuickLit. Are you ready to explore the captivating world of human cognition, decision-making, and the fascinating interplay between our intuitive and analytical thinking? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with our engaging book summaries and thought-provoking content. Let's embark on this journey of intellectual discovery together as we unlock the mysteries of the mind in Thinking, Fast and Slow. Let's dive in. Part 1, Two Systems. In the opening part of Thinking, Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman, the author introduces the fundamental concept of two distinct modes of thinking, System 1 and System 2. These cognitive systems form the foundation of the book's exploration into human decision-making and judgment. Chapter 1, The Characters of the Story. Kahneman introduces the reader to the key players in the narrative, System 1 and System 2. System 1 represents the intuitive, automatic, and fast-thinking mode that processes information quickly and effortlessly. It's responsible for making split-second judgments, recognizing familiar faces, and performing routine tasks. In contrast, System 2 is the deliberate, analytical, and slow-thinking mode. It requires conscious effort and is responsible for complex problem-solving, critical thinking, and making rational decisions. Chapter 2, Attention and Effort. This chapter delves into the dynamic interplay between System 1 and System 2. While System 1 operates efficiently and automatically, System 2 requires effort and attention. Kahneman explains that System 2 is often engaged when confronted with tasks that demand focus, concentration, and logical reasoning. However, the brain's natural inclination is to rely on the more comfortable and energy-efficient System 1 whenever possible. Chapter 3, The Lazy Controller. Kahneman delves into the idea that System 2, despite its critical role in decision-making, is inherently lazy. It avoids unnecessary exertion and is often reluctant to engage unless absolutely required. This tendency can lead to cognitive biases, as the brain prefers to rely on heuristic shortcuts rather than expending the mental energy needed for rigorous analysis. Chapter 4, The Associative Machine. In this chapter, Kahneman explores how System 1 is adept at forming associations and making connections between ideas. These associations are often based on past experiences and cultural influences. He highlights how these associations can lead to rapid judgments and decisions, but they can also give rise to biases and errors in thinking. Chapter 5, Cognitive Ease. Kahneman introduces the concept of cognitive ease, which refers to the level of comfort and effortlessness experienced while processing information. He explains how cognitive ease can influence our judgments and perceptions. Information that is presented in a clear, familiar, and easily digestible manner is more likely to be accepted and believed, even if it lacks accuracy or depth. Chapter 6, Norms, Surprises, and Causes. This chapter discusses how our intuitive judgments are often influenced by norms, expectations, and causal explanations. Kahneman explores how System 1 tends to operate within a framework of established norms, making judgments based on existing patterns and associations. However, this reliance on norms can sometimes lead to errors when faced with unexpected or unique situations. Chapter 7, A Machine for Jumping to Conclusions. Kahneman examines the human tendency to jump to conclusions using System 1's rapid and intuitive thinking. This inclination can lead to cognitive biases and errors in judgment. He introduces the concept of WISITI, what you see is all there is, which describes how System 1 often forms judgments based solely on the available information, without considering the broader context. In summary, Part 1 of Thinking, Fast and Slow introduces readers to the foundational concepts of System 1 and System 2 thinking. Kahneman explores the dichotomy between automatic, intuitive thinking and deliberate, analytical reasoning. He emphasizes how these two systems interact, and how their interplay shapes our perceptions, judgments, and decision-making processes. By laying this groundwork, Kahneman sets the stage for a comprehensive exploration of human cognition and the biases that influence our understanding of the world. Part 2, Heuristics and Biases. In Part 2 of Thinking, Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman, the author delves into the fascinating world of heuristics and biases, the mental shortcuts and systematic errors that influence human decision-making and judgment. This section explores how these cognitive shortcuts can lead to errors in reasoning and provides insights into the ways our minds simplify complex situations. Chapter 8, the law of small numbers. Kahneman introduces the concept of the law of small numbers, which refers to the human tendency to generalize from small samples of data. He explores how our intuitions often fail us when dealing with statistics and probabilities, leading to misconceptions and errors in judgment. Chapter 9, Anchors. This chapter delves into the phenomenon of anchoring, the tendency to be influenced by irrelevant information when making judgments. Kahneman discusses how initial, arbitrary numbers, anchors, can sway our decisions and perceptions, even when they have no real relevance to the situation at hand. Chapter 10, The Science of Availability. Kahneman introduces the availability heuristic, a mental shortcut that involves estimating the likelihood of an event based on its availability in our memory. He explains how our judgments can be skewed by the ease with which certain examples come to mind, often leading to overestimations of risks and probabilities. Chapter 11, Availability, Emotion, and Risk. Building on the previous chapter, Kahneman examines how emotional factors can shape our perceptions of risk and likelihood. He discusses how vivid and emotionally charged experiences can influence our judgments, even when they are not representative of the actual probability of events. Chapter 12, Tom W.'s Specialty. This chapter explores the phenomenon of overconfidence, where individuals tend to have an inflated sense of their own abilities and knowledge. Kahneman presents research on how this overconfidence can impact decision-making in various fields, from investing to professional expertise. Chapter 13, Linda, Less is More. Kahneman introduces the concept of the conjunction fallacy, which involves misjudging the probability of two events occurring together as higher than the probability of either event occurring alone. He uses the example of Linda the bank teller to illustrate how people often fall into this logical error. Chapter 14, Causes trump statistics. This chapter explores the influence of causal explanations on our judgments, even when statistical information suggests otherwise. Kahneman discusses how people are more inclined to believe in causation when presented with a compelling narrative, even if the statistics suggest a different conclusion. Chapter 15, Regression to the Mean. Kahneman delves into the concept of regression to the mean, the phenomenon where extreme events are likely to be followed by more moderate events. He explains how this statistical principle can lead to misinterpretations and mistaken beliefs, particularly when applied to situations involving random fluctuations. Chapter 16, Taming Intuitive Predictions. In the final chapter of Part 2, Kahneman discusses the challenges of taming intuitive predictions. He highlights how human intuition often fails when it comes to making accurate predictions about complex, uncertain future events. He explores ways in which systematic analysis can help improve predictions and decision-making. In summary, Part 2 of Thinking, Fast and Slow delves deep into the world of heuristics and biases, the mental shortcuts and systematic errors that influence our thinking. Kahneman explores various cognitive biases and explains how these biases can lead to errors in judgment and decision-making. By shining a light on these cognitive processes, Kahneman invites readers to critically examine their own thought patterns and consider strategies for more rational and accurate thinking. Part 3, Overconfidence. In Part 3 of Thinking, Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman, the author delves into the theme of overconfidence, the tendency for individuals to be excessively confident in their judgments, predictions, and abilities. This section explores the factors that contribute to overconfidence and its impact on decision-making. Chapter 17, The Illusion of Understanding. Kahneman begins by discussing the illusion of understanding, where individuals believe they understand complex phenomena more deeply than they actually do. He explains how this illusion leads to overconfidence in predictions and decisions, even in the face of limited information. Chapter 18, The Illusion of Validity. This chapter explores the illusion of validity, the tendency to overestimate the accuracy of one's judgments based on personal experience or expertise. Kahneman discusses how this illusion can lead experts and professionals to make erroneous predictions, especially in fields with high uncertainty. Chapter 19, Intuitions versus Formulas. Kahneman contrasts intuitive judgments with formulas and statistical models. He presents evidence that, in many cases, simple formulas and models outperform human intuition. He explores how relying on formulas can help mitigate the effects of overconfidence and improve decision-making accuracy. Chapter 20, The Certainty of Fools. Building on the theme of overconfidence, Kahneman discusses the inside view, the perspective where individuals focus on the specific details of a situation, often underestimating the challenges and uncertainties. He presents the outside view, which involves considering the broader context and statistical base rates, as a counterbalance to overconfidence. Chapter 21, The Hindsight Illusion. Kahneman introduces the hindsight illusion, where individuals perceive events as having been more predictable after they have occurred. This illusion contributes to overconfidence, as people tend to believe they could have predicted outcomes that were actually uncertain at the time. Chapter 22, Barking Up the Wrong Tree. This chapter explores the concept of base rate neglect, where individuals ignore relevant statistical information and focus on specific details instead. Kahneman discusses how base rate neglect can lead to overconfidence in medical diagnoses, financial decisions, and other areas. Chapter 23, Risk Policies. Kahneman examines how risk policies can be influenced by overconfidence. He discusses how individuals often take excessive risks when they are confident in their judgments, leading to potentially harmful outcomes. He introduces the concept of planning fallacy, where people underestimate the time and resources required for future tasks. Chapter 24, Keeping Score. In this chapter, Kahneman explores how overconfidence can be mitigated by keeping score, by tracking and evaluating the accuracy of predictions over time. He discusses how maintaining a record of past predictions can provide individuals with valuable feedback and help them adjust their level of confidence. In summary, Part 3 of Thinking, Fast and Slow delves into the theme of overconfidence and its impact on decision-making. Kahneman explores the various illusions and biases that contribute to overestimating one's judgments and abilities. By dissecting these cognitive processes, he encourages readers to recognize and address their own tendencies towards overconfidence, leading to more rational and accurate decision-making. Part 4, Choices. In Part 4 of Thinking, Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman, the author delves into the intricate world of decision-making and choices. This section explores how people make choices, the factors that influence those choices, and the psychological mechanisms that drive our preferences. Chapter 25, Bernoulli's Errors. Kahneman introduces the concept of utility theory, which suggests that people make decisions based on maximizing their utility or happiness. He discusses the limitations of this theory, highlighting how it doesn't always align with real-world decisions and behaviors. Chapter 26, Prospect Theory. Building on the flaws of utility theory, Kahneman presents prospect theory, which accounts for the ways people value potential gains and losses. He introduces the concepts of loss aversion and reference points, explaining how individuals tend to place greater emphasis on avoiding losses than on seeking gains. Chapter 27, The Endowment Effect. Kahneman discusses the endowment effect, where people ascribe higher value to things they already possess compared to equivalent items they don't own. He explores how this effect influences decision-making and contributes to the status quo bias. Chapter 28, Bad Events. This chapter explores the impact of bad events on decision-making. Kahneman discusses the bad is stronger than good principle, which suggests that negative experiences have a greater influence on our thoughts, emotions, and decisions than positive ones. Chapter 29, The Fourfold Pattern. Kahneman presents the fourfold pattern of decision-making, which categorizes choices into 4 distinct domains: gains, losses, mixed prospects, and non-prospects. He discusses how people's preferences and risk-taking behaviors vary across these domains. Chapter 30, Rare Events. In this chapter, Kahneman explores people's perceptions of rare events and their influence on decisions. He discusses how individuals often overestimate the likelihood of rare events, leading to biased decision-making and excessive risk aversion. Chapter 31, Risk Policies. Kahneman discusses how organizations and individuals approach risk policies in various domains, from finance to health. He introduces the concept of myopic loss aversion, where individuals focus on short-term losses instead of long-term gains, leading to suboptimal decisions. Chapter 32, Keeping Doors Open. This chapter explores the psychological phenomenon of keeping doors open, the tendency to avoid closing off options even when it might be beneficial. Kahneman discusses how this behavior can lead to indecision, complexity, and missed opportunities. Chapter 33, Reversals. Kahneman examines the concept of reversals of preference, situations where people's choices and preferences change when the same decision is presented in a different way. He discusses how the framing of options can significantly influence our decisions. In summary, Part 4 of Thinking, Fast and Slow delves into the complexities of decision-making and choices. Kahneman explores how people evaluate gains and losses, the influence of psychological biases on preferences, and the ways in which choices are framed. By dissecting these aspects of decision-making, he offers readers valuable insights into the intricacies of human judgment and the factors that shape our choices. Part 5, Two Selves. In the final part of Thinking, Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman, the author explores the concept of two selves, the experiencing self and the remembering self. This section delves into the complexities of human happiness, memory, and the ways in which our perceptions of well-being are shaped. Chapter 34, Two Selves. Kahneman introduces the concept of the two selves, the experiencing self, which lives in the present moment and undergoes various emotional experiences, and the remembering self, which constructs memories based on past experiences. He explores how these two selves contribute to our overall sense of well-being and happiness. Chapter 35, Well-being. Building on the concept of the two selves, Kahneman discusses the complexities of defining and measuring well-being. He presents research that challenges traditional notions of happiness and suggests that people's evaluations of their lives are often influenced more by their remembering self than by their experiencing self. Chapter 36, Duration Neglect. Kahneman introduces the concept of duration neglect, where people's assessments of their experiences are influenced more by the peak moments and the endings of those experiences rather than their overall duration. He explores how this phenomenon can lead to discrepancies between the experiencing and remembering selves. Chapter 37, The Peak-End Rule. This chapter further examines the peak-end rule, which suggests that people judge experiences based on the most intense moments and the way those experiences end. Kahneman discusses the implications of this rule for understanding how people construct memories and evaluate past events. Chapter 38, Life Satisfaction. Kahneman discusses how people assess their life satisfaction and overall happiness. He explores how the remembering self often plays a more significant role in these evaluations than the experiencing self. He introduces the concept of duration-weighted happiness, which takes into account both the intensity and the duration of experiences. Chapter 39, Experienced Utility. Kahneman discusses the concept of experienced utility, which involves assessing the immediate pleasure or pain of an experience. He explores how these immediate evaluations can differ from overall life satisfaction and how they can be influenced by factors such as the availability of choices and the duration of experiences. Chapter 40, Thinking About Life. In the final chapter of the book, Kahneman reflects on the themes and concepts explored throughout Thinking, Fast and Slow. He discusses the challenges of understanding human decision-making, the limitations of our intuitions, and the ways in which the ideas presented in the book can be applied to enhance well-being and decision-making. In summary, Part 5 of Thinking, Fast and Slow delves into the intricacies of human happiness, memory, and the interplay between the experiencing self and the remembering self. Kahneman explores how our perceptions of well-being are influenced by the way we remember past experiences and the peak moments within them. By examining these dynamics, he offers readers a profound understanding of the complexities of human happiness and the factors that contribute to our overall life satisfaction. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.